That's awesome.
Great.
I'm ready.
It is
6:50
on Monday, December the 9th. I'm going to call the budget committee meeting to order. Chairman Show had an emergency come up today, so he will not be able to be here, as well as Becker and Boyd will be out tonight. So first want to ask Mayor Isbell, will you give the invocation for us, please?
Be honored to. Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to come together, Lord, and serve our county. Father, we just pray that every decision we make glorifies your name. Pray all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Before we approve the agenda, I've got a few things. I know Lawing's got a few things as well. Under the tribal funds, if we can add in that, so I guess it would be C1 or C2, depending on if you want to purchase the AEDs, to talk about adding money or using some of that money for the Veterans Park here at the county building. And then,
Mention the ones I want to do.
yeah, if you'll go run through all those.
Under my report, it would be item E. I want to add an ARPA report. That way, when you're going through these MOUs or subrecipient agreements, you'll actually be able to see what we're looking at. And Miss Allison's got a copy of those to pass out. They're all on the agenda. And then also under the MOUs or the subrecipient agreements, whichever one you want to call them, I was wanting to add one. If you go down to item 6C, I was wanting to add item 6C, 2B6, and add in SWIG for Westmoreland MOU subrecipient agreement. And then for item 7, immediately below that, I was wanting to add a health department local funding, a subrecipient agreement / MOU. And then under the existing ones for Millersville, because we've got some additional information we want to change out, which would be item B3, page 266 through 287. We have handouts to replace those page numbers. And for White House, which is item 5 under B, we want to replace page number 402 through 423. And then for Westmoreland, which is item 4, we want to place 375 through 399 for some changes and additional information I found out since the agenda was printed. And then also we have one small handout. The Election Commission had a question about their budget and have an email response plus the applicable statutes and private act attached to handout also.
Any other additions or anything else to bring up? If not, can I have a motion to approve the
Motion
agenda?
to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, that's your vote. All right, next is recognition of the public, and first up we have Commissioner Mansfield.
I just want to give a report on the item about the Westmoreland athletic facility. This is something that passed, brought forth through General Ops. Just a little brief background. Was with Westmoreland for their playoffs and was just asking questions of Principal Duffer about their facilities and how they came about being built and their field house and press box and bleachers and everything. He relayed to me probably about 10, 15 years ago, I guess about 15 years ago, that the previous commission had allocated around $500,000 towards these facilities for them to build bleachers. And what they did was they took half that money, $250,000, and put it toward just materials, and they built their own press box, they built their own bleachers, because they didn't have anybody do it for them. The community built it with the funds that the county commission gave them. And then the other half they used for their field house, weight rooms, concessions. And Principal Duffer was just, had mentioned he had asked Bill Phillips if there was a way that the school board could help them out with their quarterback club on their, the loan that they have on their current field house, where the coach's office athletic training facilities are, their main primary building that they took a loan out for, and asked if the county could help there. And so basically, I know that we had put $250,000 back in the hospital fund for the Comer barn that we pulled back. So I asked with Mr. Lawing, as far as a source of income and revenue, to be able to help them out with this. I thought it'd be a good gesture for the community, given that they weren't a part of the process of all the athletic facility upgrades. So we came forward with that ask, and it's like around $274,000. That would be a payoff, along with an MOU agreement for this information. So we brought that forward, and Gen Ops wanted to pass it along to budget at the full commission. I desire to do it just to help out Westmoreland. Thought it'd be a good idea. The source is there from the hospital fund to do it, and it's a smaller amount compared to a lot of the other schools are asked. I just thought we could do something nice for Westmoreland. So that's, again, it passed unanimously out of Gen Ops, and so just bringing that for you, a little background information on how that request came forward from the commission from Westmoreland. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Joe Rewa.
Good evening. Just a quick update. I'm here to speak on behalf of Hendersonville Utilities. We're on the subrecipient agreement for the sewer project on West Main. I am just reporting that we will be on schedule. We are under budget. We got bids last week, so we did get a low bid of $2,671,000. We were hoping to be at 3.4, so somehow it went down. We have already checked the all of their references. It's a good company. They've done work with White House, with Metro, with Brentwood. So we have not awarded it yet. That's next week in the board meeting. But I don't see any issues finishing that project on time. So just laying that out there for the agreement. Looking forward to getting it done.
Thank you. Mr. Rick Duffer.
I will follow up on what Commissioner Mansfield spoke on regarding the Westmoreland High School Fieldhouse. In 1977, a group of parents and coaches got together and built a fieldhouse in Westmoreland. That fieldhouse stayed there until 2021, when it was taken down and a new structure was put in its place. Let me tell you why it was taken down. Over the years, the road that ran parallel to the fieldhouse itself grew. They added more and more and more dirt, more and more and more rock, and then eventually paved that, so that the runoff from the field and heavy rains was probably 8 to 10 inches above the level of the field house itself. There was a threshold there that we would keep water out of the field house, but when we got excessive rains, it would flood. It flooded many times, to the point that we had mildew and molds and things of this nature. And we fought it, we fought it, and we fought it. But it was 47 years old. So we launched a campaign trying to come up with enough money to pay for a field house. The longer we waited and the more money we saved, the more the price went up. So we were fighting a losing battle. We finally reached a point where we said, you know, we've got $600,000. The football team, the quarterback club, private donations, and money that the school system had allowed us to have, we saved everything that we could. We came up with $600,000. We needed about $375,000, and we could have continued to save and save and save and hopefully gotten closer to that mark. But by the time we hit $975,000, the price would have probably been 1.2. So we went ahead and we built our facility. 10 people in the community came forward and said, we will guarantee the loan for you, Mr. Duffer, because as you know, the school system cannot take debt upon themselves. So those 10 people signed a note for $375,000. We've paid on that each year since, and we currently have that at $275,000. I have asked numerous times for help from the school system. They've been as gracious as they've been, but we still have $275,000. My football coach is back here. He takes just about everything that comes into his program in order to pay this. We currently have some young men that are going without new jerseys, new pants, and those kinds of things. It's okay. We make sacrifices, and we're paying this thing back. If the money is available and you guys would provide that for the people at Westmoreland, the 10 people who signed that note, the young men who play on the football team, it would be very much appreciated. And I'll answer any questions that you may have if there are questions. but thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. And Mr. Curtis Williams.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm Curtis Williams, 1027 Jackson Heights. I noticed that the volunteer fire department stuff was not put back on the old business for this month's agenda, so the only thing I have for y'all is if that contract is gonna have to go through the legislative committee prior to budget time in order for any of that to happen, then we just request that the contract goes ahead and goes to legislative. At least that way, so that one other thing is being done between now and July 1st. Because as y'all know, that they said the last year's budget was that if we didn't have something in place prior to July 1st, when the new budget came in, then all the fire departments would be getting $0, which of course, a lot of them could not sustain themselves with that. So if it is possible at all, if it is gonna have to go through the legislative committee, we just ask, go ahead and send that contract to legislative committee. So at least while y'all are doing your research on the budget stuff, that they can go ahead and look at the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone forget to sign up? Good deal. Next, we have approval of the minutes from November 7th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Anybody?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? Passes. Report of the Budget Committee Chairman. We're gonna make that Vice Chairman for right now. Holiday meeting schedule with the law office. I have something that Matt said. that you
I
wanted to-
believe.
Is that the calendar
Yes.
later on? Okay.
I believe I believe it's Columbus Day is on the second Monday of the month, so the building's closed.
Okay.
So if you move it, it creates conflicts with county commission. So since you're getting ready to form the calendar for next year, I believe that's what they're running for.
I got you. I'll just make a note on that.
See if we could find an alternative day. And moving it to Tuesday before the commission usually causes a lot of stress for legal, finance, and for the county clerk's office, because it's hard to get it together.
Do we need to make a motion to move it to the week before?
It's in here.
The week before.
I think there's a whole section on calendar.
Yeah, there's some other conflicts too that you got. I'll make the calendar this year. But I'll leave this one out.
Okay.
It's
So
an
put a,
issue.
put a pin in that.
Put this on the side.
Mr. Mayor, you have anything tonight?
No, sir.
Mr. Long, it's all you.
First item I have is on page 26, and it's your revenue report. Everybody want time to get there, or and I'll kind of go through the highlights really quickly. I know you've got a big packet here. Overall, things look well. The only ones that I would have a concern with is two items. Number one is your hotel motel tax is about 10% below last year in what we would actually project, but those do have up and down variances, and it's not a significant revenue. Number two, we're showing property tax with a significant overage of 101, but I did want to point out that there is a couple of concerns on property tax after the reappraisal, and I'll kind of go through those. If you look on page, and this is what brings my concern up at this point, if you go to page 30, this is actually after everything's loaded into the trustees report, this is our tax roll. Okay, if you look at the 109 and the 366, that's probably the biggest one we've had since '09, but it's not really concerning. The next number, she's marked bankruptcies and appeals of $4,030,000. That is the total amount of revenue appealed, and she says at this point she has not been able to provide us the actual revenues. But I did want to make you guys aware that there's $4 million or somewhere below dollars of appeals, and I've actually attached them the way you would have an idea what you're looking at. If you look on page 32 through I think it's page 40. I'll keep going.
46.
Let me see, you're probably correct. 46, that's the actual appeals, and there's 489 of them outstanding at that day. So when you go back and to come up with that 101 surplus, if you look on page 28, I can kind of run down what we're comparing, and I know it's kind of a jumping you around to kind of show you where my concerns are. We're showing we're ahead, and I think we're probably okay, but I did want to make the committee aware of it. If you look on this second column coming from the left, and it says load to tax rolls. That's what was actually loaded, 158 million compared to 157 million that we showed earlier. So that looks really good, the 46, and then the claims all the way down. The only concern is I have that same 4 million and 4,030,520 At this point, we don't have any idea how the appeals are gonna be settled or what the exact number is, so I added the 3.5 million to that back end as just a plain guess, and that brought you to your 101 excess. I think we're fine, but I didn't wanna give you a picture that we're having excess revenues without me really knowing. It's the gist of why I ran through all those,
Okay.
if that makes sense. Otherwise, if we looked at your revenues on page 26, again, all your local revenues, nothing else would be, we have normal variances up and down, nothing else would really catch my attention at this point. Does anybody have any additional questions or any questions? The next item is just the financial statement memo, and because of the timing, we will have the financial statements for November on December 30th. The next one is the budget calendar, and it's this nice little looking thing right here, and there's a couple things I wanted to point out to you, and the reason there's several pieces to it. If you look at the very first thing, and that's what we're doing tonight, it's the 9th, your private act requires before January 1 of each year, the finance director in conjunction with the budget committee shall form a budget calendar for the coming fiscal year. And there's about a couple of statutes that come into play and your private act. What I propose right now on a couple of these, and you may want to look at the dates really closely, and I can show you why and how they line up, but it really significantly affects the existing calendar. The first thing is, well, you know, we've got the second because we're closed on the first. The second through the 31st, we'll send forms to the budgets, the actual departments, the way they can put together their budget. In the past, they are required to have those back by our private act, and in the general law, it's the same dates if we go by either one, back to my office by March 1. And that's when we get really tight. In the past, what we've done, and we've talked to Commissioner Schoaf about it, we've actually taken detailed payrolls for everybody, which takes a lot of time to reconcile. So when they get those back to us in March 1, we usually give them quite a bit of time because there may be errors in them. We have to go back and forth, back and forth. Well, to meet all the timelines and actually meet a June 30th becomes very tight. And that's what we was talking to Matt Schoaf, that it may be easier this year that we let them take the simplified form. And if you guys come up with what you believe is a reasonable cost of living, you give them that much on their line items as far as salary line items that aren't statutorily required. We'll help them calculate their benefits, and if they're asking for additional employees or additional raises, let them bring back the reconciliation to you. That follows statutes. The other, we do all the additional stuff, but if we're gonna try to have the budget back to the budget committee in time, it's gonna be very difficult if they have it to us March 1 and we do the detailed salaries, because if you start looking at the statutes, let's go on down here. Honor before, it says I don't have to have those back to you June 30, but if you go back, it says under 5-9-402, the budget committee, no later than April 1st, will do the first vote on the budgets.
You got a month, basically, I mean.
So what I would recommend is you might want to look at, well, if we get it on 3/1 and we start going back and forth, and we need to have it to you guys enough time to look at it before there too. So it would probably, usually you have like 2 full days. It looks like the most opportune days, if it would work for the committee, would be March 31st and April 1st.
Okay.
If everybody could kind of start looking at their calendar and see if that's going to work.
So that would be the 2 workshop days.
That would be the best definition of this existing calendar. You may want to modify it.
3/31 and 4/1.
4/1, make sure we don't have anything I missed on it. Pull my calendar back out. There's a lot of little floaters here. And that would be
It's a Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. And I know April 1st is April Fool's, but
It's
not a holiday, but not a joke. Because if you look, and the reason I say that is after they make their first presentation, they have 10 business days after rejection to get the a proposal back to the budget committee. So if we gave them 4/2 to 4/15, you know, that's business day, so that would be the deadline for when they have to have those back. The other one, if you look at our private act, because you've also got the school budgets allow, per the 2012 Act, with an agreement for them to have their budget May 1st. 2012 Act allows June 1st. However, if you look at general law, it says that you will vote on the school budgets to June 1. So instead of making agreements for May 1, you may want to go, June 1, you may want to go with the May 1 deadline for the schools. That would allow you guys to have the budgets due for the schools May 1 and push them back into your time. But you have, but under a private act, we can't agree to a later deadline.
Sure.
We have in the past. But if you go with the May 1st, then if you go down here and look at the
Because
next
right now
one,
it's June.
if you do an agreement with them, it's June 1 under the private act. But if you don't have an agreement with them under a private act, then it goes automatically to June 1. Is what, 59402 states.
Okay.
Then you consider the budget hearings and budget committee votes on school budgets. That would allow you to vote on them somewhere between 5/2 and 5/5. And if you look at that date, June 1 would be the first Monday, if you're wanting to relook at maybe moving budget committee around. And there's a reason to move it around, because if you're gonna make June 23rd, there's publication and multiple hearings that could happen. It's just like last year, if the county rejects the school budget, they have 10 days to produce their second one back to the budget committee. And that's the next line down there, and it would give you a date somewhere around in there.
You have June 23rd instead of the 16th.
Right, that's what I noted, it's the 4th instead of the 3rd. If you push it back to the 3rd, you can't meet all the 10 days, and
I got you.
They won't logistically all fit. That was another day I haven't noted.
I got you. Sorry. I was just
There's
looking at
several days
the
that are
calendar.
3rd Monday and 3rd Tuesday and all kinds of to meet this one, unless you move to the 4th and we can start making around a little more, but, so if they reject it, then they've got to have 10 business days. Then if the second's rejected, they get 10 business days, and then if you guys reject both of them, they can do direct presentations to the county commission in addition to what you guys present, unless the school's presenting something different. And then when you get down here into budget publication, it's got to be at least 10 days before the county commission considers it, no more than 5 days after they receive a copy. So if they're going to do the 10-day rule, you probably need to have, like, the finance officer receive it, and but the chairman of the county commission, that way the whole commission don't receive it, because you got to publish it within 5 days of receipt. If you do it the other way.
So in this timeline you gave us, what is different than what we did this year?
Pretty much you try to push it back into June. Last year we did with the assumption you weren't going to do the multiple hearings, but last year and the years before, we've had the multiple hearings.
We've ended up doing
And if you look at the 5/9M, it gives multiple hearing dates.
it. Okay.
So that's something you probably, and it says by January 1, form a calendar, but my thought is you make this to kind of follow the law preliminary for now, put it back under old business, and let everybody come and digest when these days fall out. I've noted them here, but they kind of fall everywhere. You may want to come back and look at the 5th Monday and see if you can push some of these more back into your regular. But I went with the 23rd and kind of a rough outline here.
Does anybody have any thoughts on it?
I have a question. This past year, we did our workshops in May,
Right.
and now we're doing them in March.
Yeah, and then when you did all the 10 days, you ended up into, was it July or August?
It was August, I think.
It was August, wasn't it? Was it July?
Pretty sure.
Late, we were late on last night.
Right, you're really supposed to have your budget approved before the first Monday in July, or June 30. So right now, you really, and this is my only thing, you really need to have a calendar that at least lays out to attempt to follow the statutes. Now, if you don't meet those, then it does, if you read down here, it does provide that you'll have a continuation of budget up till August 31st unless you have special circumstances. I've talked to the state before, and they've told me in not so uncertain terms, it's gonna have to be really special circumstances. It's not gonna be reappraisals, revenue shortfalls. It's probably gonna be more something with the line of major tornadoes wiped out the building or earthquakes. It's not gonna be very likely to be approved.
It's not good to be late, Commissioner Klein. It's, what happened, we got our hands smacked, me and Mr. Hyde were serving on that commission at that time, in the interchange. Mr. Chairman remembers this, I guess, between, back in 2014.
Before they approved the statute.
There was this statute, but we still got pretty reprimanded by it. Basically what happened, the county was in severe shortage of funds. And so they just put off the passing of a budget until the new commission. There was no choice that something was gonna have to be done. And we didn't pass, I think, until August of that year.
It was after that. It was one year.
It was the latest, I mean,
There was a reappraisal one year and we was really late, but since that time, they've approved this statute, so. And our private act used to allow, when we adopted it in 2012, up to September, but the general law is more restrictive, so it goes back to the end.
I would say we get back, in my opinion, get back on doing it. It's a tighter in March, so you can have your budget passed by July 1st. A lot of our bills and our vendors, stuff come through July 1st. That's when, any of our year-long contracts, so then we get into not paying them till late. I think Mr. Long would agree that he starts to get phone calls, why have y'all not paid us on this contract yet? Well, we haven't passed the budget yet. So all those dates are all around July 1.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
I
with
would
it.
say it's a good idea
I,
to go back.
I
It's
just
more
know that in
statutorily
twenty
signed.
twenty-three, we did the 2-day thing in May, and then last year we did it in May. I was just wondering what changed that we're doing it
If you
2
give
months
them all
earlier.
their hearings, it's provided in those laws, and you try to meet the July 1, they won't follow if you do the May. And it will allow us to do those additional
Well, I
stuff.
think you said, we did it in May under the assumption we wouldn't have the multiple hearings, and we've had them every single.
Last couple of times,
Yeah.
and now it's pushing it into July and August.
I would rather have too much time than not enough.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, at the end of the day,
And
I
the
think March
statute-
is the wiser.
And if you read the
That's fine.
statutes, you really should have your budget approved by July 1, but then it allows for continuations.
Sure.
But that's like a fallback, so I don't think, and Eric may disagree, I don't think it'd be statutorily sound to set a schedule on the fallback that don't meet the statutory original requirements, but.
I think we should do our best. I don't know if I need to make a motion to whatever, put it on old building or adopt it to get back on that July 1.
I think your best move might be to preliminary adopt it, put it under old business, that gives you guys a month to look at it
To
now.
look at the schedule.
Next month to see when the
I'll
date
make a motion to
drops out.
preliminary
I'll
adopt.
second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did this need to factor into this at all?
Columbus Day was
Day.
the first one, no, because no, it
Okay.
wouldn't really affect that. That's gonna affect when you set your overall count with the county commission.
Okay.
And this may, but it's something you guys can always amend.
Under this calendar, were you trying to get to when the budget committee meets, or are we keeping it
On this
second
calendar?
Monday?
This calendar kind of moves it, and the question is, do you want to have additional meetings to approve those or try to
Okay.
move your main budget committees on the same day? My thought, you may want to try to move your same budget committees on the same day, and that's why I
We
use the
don't have to do
20.
that right this second.
No, we
Okay.
just already
Same thing
adopted it.
with, the same thing with the 23rd, you guys can come back next time, maybe we would do the 30th and kind of stretch some of these,
Okay.
kind of move them. Logistically, that works, but it may not be the best fit. And since it's supposed to be both of us, that's why I say put it under old business. Item number 2, something I'm asked, and number 2, the discussion is the format of the budget request, and this year we have and if you see it was right behind the budget calendar, it's the little sheet, that's what we always send, and I send them an email. This year, I'm recommending that we just ask people to basically give us their line item totals, and the next discussion is, I'm asked every year about COLA, what I think, but really I can't say anything. You guys are more the groups to think on COLA, so my thought process is you put COLA on a line item, and then probably have the department head to supply the difference between that line item. Or if it's more than 3.5% or 3% or whatever, you say 2%, then you would say it's because of additional employee A, B, C cost this, or I'm trying to give employee Z $5,000 for all these extra duties, or they're outside the market, and let them present that to you. Probably gonna be cleaner, we can get the budget together quicker. Plus, we're running a lot of overtime, probably save you some money too.
Because this is not what we're doing right now.
That's what we're doing now, we're also doing a very long, drawn-out salary worksheet that takes last year's all the way into this year's and reconciles everybody, all 1,200 employees' salaries. And it's really taken a lot of time for both entities. We'll form something simpler, but that's the number 2 discussion, is forming the items. If you guys are okay with running that direction, then we'll just run that way by line item this year. The next one's the COLA. I'm asked every year what the committee's thought is on COLA, and I don't believe the committee's ever asked before they asked me. I don't think it's ever been. So this year I'll put it in here. Because I definitely want to communicate it.
You want us to tell you what we think?
What do you think's, what do you want to communicate? 'Cause they say every year, what's the thought of the committee? I think I've been asked that for, this'll be my 16th year, so it's a given. And then they
Give
probably
input?
won't follow
Give
it,
input?
but
3% is what I would say you would use as your starting COLA recommendation.
What'd you say?
3% would be the number.
That's what I was thinking.
I've seen it between 2.5 and 3.
We are right, now that we've elected a decent president.
what do you say? I'm not gonna disagree with you on the details.
Obviously, over what's happened over the last 4 years, that wouldn't be good, but I would think standard, we've been somewhere between 2.5 and 3% starting point.
We gave huge raises this year,
We did.
up to 25% increases, so I would rather be more conservative and, it probably at this point, the conversation, whether it's 2, 3, 1, doesn't really matter. it's really hard to tell. A lot can change in 4 months.
That's what I was just thinking.
So I
I think what you're doing there, Mr. Commissioner Klein, is you're just giving your department heads the number for them to start using their basis to see what they're gonna
Yeah.
ask with.
yeah. And then-
We don't have to say we're guaranteeing a 3%.
Yeah, yeah.
You can just say, hey, we're gonna tell you to start looking with a 3%.
Mhm.
So when we look at our first numbers, that's the numbers it doesn't mean that we are gonna approve the 3%. That just
Right.
gives them their, like, if we possibly could, that would be enough, you're kind of saying that's where we're starting.
Yeah.
And then
that's fine.
during our proceedings, we could handle it from there.
That's fine.
That's what I would,
What was it in 23? Was it 2 or 3% in 23?
I don't even remember, Dave, do you remember what it was?
What it was?
23, what our COLA was?
So we had 24 since last year, I'd have to look back.
It was 2 or 3. It was,
Both.
It was what now?
It was both. It was based on the EMS got, whoever got ARPA, I think got a higher percentage.
Yeah, ARPA got more.
Or vice versa.
so I like 3% as a baseline to begin.
Sounds good. Do we need a motion on that or anything, or since it's just a recommendation?
I'll just probably say you want me to pass that message on.
pass that message.
Sounds good.
If, we should probably vote for it, just that you should probably let us vote so that's on the record that we're telling them to pass it on. I'll make a motion for the finance director to pass on the 3% starting point.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay. The next is discussion on local revenues, and usually each year I'm asked by these schools in the past what their local revenues are, and I've been talking to Mr. Schoaf, and if you look at a couple of statutes, and this is the ones I'm gonna, it's 49-2-101. It says, one of the duties of the county legislative body is to make revenue estimates, it's on, this one right here, is to make revenue estimates and determine the level of revenues necessary to establish budget for the operation of county schools that is least or equal to the minimum budget required to comply with local matching provisions and basically the matching. So anything, if it's more than last year, is probably gonna meet your matching. Establish budget operation schools at least equal to the minimum budget required to comply with local matching and maintenance of effort. Maintenance of effort means the same amount as last year, and you were way above matching last time we looked. And then the other statute, because I've been asked this several times, I had it from Mr. Schiff tonight, is if you open the second, it's on page 56, and it says one of the duties and powers of the schools is to require the director of schools and the chairman of the local board of education to prepare a budget on the forms furnished by the commissioner. When it goes on, it says director of schools and the chair of the board that shall prepare a budget according to the revenue estimates and revenue determination made by the county legislative body under 49-2-1012D, which is this. So the thing is, each year they ask you for the revenue. It's really determined by county commission. So the question is, do you just want to determine them in here and me to pass them on, or did you want to determine them and pass them to the county commission and let them give them a resolution to send an official? That was the discussion with Mr. Schoaf. So basically, you guys determine what revenue you're gonna provide to the schools and send them a resolution up front to tell them, or do you wanna do it the other way?
Because in the past, they've come and had different numbers than what we've figured, which is what's been the tension, correct?
That, yes. The main tension is the amount of available revenue, so. Basically, it says it's the duty of the county commission to determine this, and then it is, it's the duty of the county commission to determine it, and it's their duty to follow it if it complies with that. So they may have the 2 or 3 hearings, but, and Eric may disagree, or he may agree, but it looks like the budget would be required to follow those revenue estimates, whatever they're sending you.
Yeah, last time we talked about it.
It's his understanding too, if you adopted the revenue thoughts.
So what are you asking?
Do you want me to say we go to this budget hearing and then you guys just come up with a number and we pass it on by email and they work it up, or do you want to come up with the number and send it to the county commission, make it in the form of a resolution and send it over to them? There's either, you can do it either way. I was talking to the county technical, they said several done it the other way, is what he told me the other day.
I said the first one.
Resolution.
We gave them $7.5 million over
Yes,
maintenance of effort last year,
right.
and their numbers are fairly flat as far as enrollment goes. I mean, the enrollment hasn't changed more than 1,500 students in 10 years. I say we go with maintenance of effort, start there.
Well, I don't think that's the question is, do we want to tell them what number to use, or do we want to allow them to tell us what number they'd like to use?
Right, pretty much. In the past, we've sent them an email or whatever, and they just tell you what number they like to use. Do you want to do it as
If
resolution?
maintenance of effort is 133.5,
Well, and the distinction I believe that's being made is if we do the resolution, then that automatically leaves the commission at a 3%, or the maintenance of effort minimum.
It leaves them whatever the county commission sends as a resolution, as long as it meets those requirements.
Right.
If not, they'll send budgets, they've got the option of sending a budget with more than what we send. Or if we, just say if you guys say we're gonna give them, the 133 plus 140. If you tell me that, I send them an email, they can still send a budget with 145. If they send a resolution or
So I'll make a
understand
motion, we
it,
send a resolution when it gets to that point to tell them what those local revenues are.
and since it's not a decision item, you wanna put it under old business to discuss it tonight, okay? Okay. Then the next item is a little bit easier, it's transfers, and all these first ones are to do with payroll and to do with movements between line items. And some of them are payout, overtime, and various, but none of them are really
Okay.
hugely out of the
Do we
ordinary.
need to go? through
We can,
individually?
but we can go through them individually, or you could group and approve them either.
Make a motion to group and approve
Second.
A through H, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
no.
Passes through.
Okay, the second one is other interbudgetary, and that's on page 74 through 76.
Motion approved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
I have a question.
Okay.
Gotta get a second, of course.
Oh, I thought.
I'll second it.
Okay, there you go.
I never totaled what, this is additional funds, this is not,
These are transfers between line items. These are just movement between line items.
is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are all interbudgetary, non-salary. The first group's just your salary, transfer between salary line items or salary and non-salary. The second one's just non-salary line items.
So we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? Passes. And ARPA report.
The ARPA report, and this is the first thing that I have on the ARPA report. And it should look something like this.
Is it in the packet?
Yeah, it's one that's just now passed out.
Handout that's today.
And the reason I'm passing that, it shows your total amount available, if you look on the far right, or spent for ARPA is $37,154,480. And if you look at the thing, you got general and revenue replacement. General is the ones that have the most restriction, like water lines, broadband, water sewer, decreasing crime, certain things like that. The 10 million can be used for everything. Right now, as long as we're using more toward general than, the revenue replacement, then we're fine, which we have about $1.2 million. And then page number 2 shows the breakdown of what year we spent in, what's budgeted, and some comments on it, but really not that important. But these two sheets are mainly here to help you when you start looking at the MOUs tonight. This is where all the funds went. So there's several of these funds that have not been tied down, so when we go through the MOUs, that's to tie these funds out. Basically, we're guaranteeing to give these funds to these individuals to use for these projects. If we don't do that by December 31st, then these monies go back to the feds. So they need to all be tied down tonight, unless there's another option, or if you want to have another meeting and another county commission meeting. But I would kind of set this aside because it will help you when you get down talking to all the MOUs. Because there's going to be several of them and several dollars involved. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, sir. All right, under old business, item A, City of Gallatin update on the $907,000.
No update, Mr. Chairman.
Item B is correction of payroll holdback issue.
It's still with financial management.
Okay. Has it been on one of their agendas already?
It's going to be probably, it's been there several times in discussion. I think they want to
Okay,
meet
that's
with,
what
they want to meet with the department heads and discuss it, so it's probably gonna happen in January.
Okay. Item C is the tribal funds. The first prong of that is the request to purchase the AEDs. This has gone through Gen Ops. I was talking to, I think it was you today, or Shannon, so it's one of the two. There may be some opioid money that this is, and shaking your head, so correct me if I'm wrong. So we may want to wait and see what comes out of that opioid committee before we commit this to that, because that's much more restricted than these are.
The opioid money is?
Mhm.
Opioid for the AEDs.
Yep.
We
possibly.
could
Okay,
use that
yes.
money instead of these tribal grants,
Yes,
basically.
that makes sense.
We're looking into, and the tribal's much less restricted, so you'd want to use it if you could. Tribal has a lot less restrictions.
So is everybody good with waiting, just, I guess we just need to keep that on old business?
Yeah.
And then with that, is the $5,000 for the veterans part. You wanna speak to that, Mary?
Yeah, that's primarily, and I just got this list, so I hadn't had a chance to disseminate it, but most of it goes to repairing those bricks out there. They've purchased some bricks, and getting them all installed and engraved is around $5,000, just a little more than that.
Is this the bricks with the names? actually?
Right, yeah, where they're going through fixing all of those. And wanted to use some of this grant money. That grant's still lingering. Would like to get that grant closed out. I thought this would be a worthy project.
May I ask,
Do-
is this leftover from when we worked on the veterans
Yeah,
a couple of years ago?
it was
And
part of that
from where-
grant as well.
Right, but the repair work to the bricks, is that new damage or?
Oh, no, it's
Leftover.
continuing work that's being
Oh,
done. Yeah. It was identified in the last project we knew that we was gonna do this.
okay.
Commissioner Klein?
Couple of things, we discussed this a couple of years ago in Gen Ops, if I'm not mistaken. And number one, did we ever resolve that it was caused by the weed eaters? That the bricks were damaged from weed eating?
Yeah.
Because if we fix them all and and it continues on, it's,
Well, we have talked to the mowing crew to be extra sensitive around that area,
Mhm.
make sure everything goes opposite that area.
okay. And because we did it 2 years ago, I thought we approved the money to do it way back then.
There was some to do some work, but I don't know, it wasn't the same thing, but there was some work.
I mean, I know there was some issues with the wall and delamination.
Yeah, what we voted on last time was to shore up the walls.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it wasn't to go in and fix the bricks, they were still working on that. And now we're at the point, if this committee and the commission wishes to help fund that, that's where they are now, is where they're fixing all those
Fixing the bricks,
Yeah.
okay.
Any other discussion, motions, anything?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and the grant accounting, we're gonna wait on that a little bit.
Right now, I think we need to wait till we have time to evaluate the existing staff.
Well, that's who you're getting, that's who
Yeah, we've hired somebody for
interviewing.
the other position, we're gonna see what we can do. If we can do some of the work that wasn't done with the two.
All right, moving on to new business. Under appropriations, item 1 is county clerk, 19,005, and then 5,000 from the data fee fund for various purposes. From my understanding, this is the only thing that we can only use this money for this type of purpose, correct?
Yes, and she has plenty of reserves, and she needs the credit card machine to make sure that they've got the security, and then there was a change in the data line, which some of the costs got moved over to this office they weren't planning on.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Can you
Could I
wait a second?
could I have a question? This was for 11 credit card machines?
I think I had them attached. It's like 86.
Yeah, you did.
She's here.
And she's in the back, but- 'cause I attached everything. I can think it's relevant.
They were roughly
16.
16, they were like 1,200 apiece. Some were 11.50, others were
Says-
12.50.
I would like to replace 16 credit card readers at this time and transfer.
Do we have any idea how old they are? I'm just curious.
The issue's not the age, the issue is they don't use the chip. So it's
okay.
gonna be a security issue if we don't replace them timely.
Okay,
Yeah, it's gonna
alright.
become a security issue.
Okay, got my answer.
And can I request to waive the second?
You good with that?
Yep.
Second, good with
Uh,
that?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. You have something to,
Do we waive the second reading on the grant? Do we need to have a second reading on that?
You can bring it back up and waive it now. Whoever made the motion.
Which grant?
On the veterans.
Oh, the veterans.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Pond did.
Yeah, I would waive it. Did we vote?
Just
Everybody,
waive.
let's just,
Okay.
let's vote to waive the second reading just to make sure. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Thank you.
And thank you for pointing that out.
The next three are pass-through grants from the sheriff's department for recruitment, retention, assistant, and SLR
Motion to
retention.
approve.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
And waive the second. You would-
And wait a second.
All opposed? Motion passes. Number 3 is Millersville Library for some of the benefits, correct?
Yes, this one is, I'm not sure this next one's on, but
Yeah,
number 3 is
employee.
Millersville's $8,719. It's where they change from single to family or no insurance. And the county asks the departments usually to cover it if they can, but if they cannot, the county will generally cover it. But since we're in December, you may want to put it under old business and see if they can find it in their budget first. That's what's usually asked of them. But they wanted to go ahead and send it forward.
I'll make a motion to move this to old business.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
It doesn't need a vote.
Oh, okay. And the Health Department, $529,000 for the Hendersonville. Health
That is the
Department.
additional for the construction Hendersonville provided, and it's actually already in the total of the MOU that the commission approved, so you really just need to vote to accept the grant and the commission said. It's already been appropriated, you just need to accept the grant
Motion approved
Second.
and waive.
and waive.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And number 5 is nonprofit donation for the Westmoreland Quarterback Club to pay off debt incurred for the athletic facility, $274,000, and an MOU with that.
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Let me discuss how it works exactly, or would that help? Okay.
And motion ties for lack of a second. Item number 6 is planning and engineering, $10,000 from general fund to remove on the Station Camp Creek Bank and Highway 25 bridge due to the flooding. I'm assuming this was back last year.
Yeah, that's the one that was here, I believe, last month, but I think it was sent back from Gen Ops because they said they thought there was a misunderstanding of the request.
There was. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to explain what happened.
Yeah.
Way back in, I believe it was 2022 or 2023, we passed a resolution for people to add taxes or add money, a voluntary tax resolution, and for the Draper House. Now, when this came before the commission last month, the Commissioner Becker questioned the resolution that it was, that only money that is donated by the public pays for any work done on the property. And in going through the resolution, and this is what we discussed in General Ops last week, was number 1, it only referred to the Draper House. That entire resolution only referred to the Draper House. And number 2, when we discussed it with Mr. Sittler, he said that the resolution referred to that money as additional to money being spent by the county. What we're trying to do at General Operations is we have a lot of debris that was left when that property, when we stopped the demolition of the old post office and the Draper House. There were 2 outbuildings that got demolished. but the material that was demolished never left the property, was never hauled off.
Go by it tonight.
Yeah, consequently, it's floated in the flooding and has gone down, down the bank and has caused, I think we get it cleaned up and we'll probably see no more flooding there or much reduced flooding, if any. And so I did take a contractor out there. He said he could do it for less than $10,000. I've got pictures on my computer if anybody'd like to see it, but as you saw tonight, there's a lot of glass, metal, wood,
Asphalt.
roof sheeting. And we need to be good neighbors and clean up our mess, number one. And number two, this will most likely resolve some of the flooding that happens. Because right now, there is one half of, the bridge is divided into two sections. It's got a fin down the middle. We had TDOT do part of the work where they got rid of an island that was on the south side to the east side that was blocking half of that bridge. So that is now gone. If we do our job and pull that debris out of there, that entire bridge will be open and the water can go underneath rather than 2 feet higher than the bridge, which is what happens in big flood situations.
Sure.
So we ran it through general operations again. We're asking to run it through budget so that it can go to the commission and hopefully be approved this time. It's $10,000 to be good neighbors and to fix a flooding problem. It's not a lot of money to spend for that job. And it won't be that much. So anyway, I would make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that. I do have one question. Do you know if anybody's given to that voluntary fund?
Last time I checked, no.
And it's really,
Yes, they have.
Have they recently?
They bought the roof for the Draper house,
Oh, you mean a while back? Because that was a while back, but
Yeah.
recently since we spent all that.
but they recently took the vines and weeds and they cleaned up the yard. They do work on it, yeah.
Yeah, I believe that was.
It's that nonprofit.
so this is money that if we had not walked away from and not foregone the cost our county $175,000, $80,000 walking away from the FEMA grant, it would already been done. So now we're going back to try to.
Well, but we also would
I'm
have
just-
torn down the post office and the Draper house, and it would have cost more.
I guess we walked away. We walked away from the FEMA grant.
So I have a
This is our
motion and a second.
Yes, I'm asking. This is the same area.
My
correct?
understanding of it
Yes. Recently.
Yes, that is the same area.
Same area. Do we know if we checked right of ways and all that in the creek there, or we just whose that is?
This money would go to the planning and engineering department, and they would oversee the work to be done.
This is all on county property.
Yeah,
Do you say-
it's all on.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I mean, they would work with TDEC, make sure all the appropriate permits are pulled. Yeah, I've talked to Josh about this.
Do we have to get multiple bids, or is that something the county in-house can
Oh,
do?
yeah,
or-
it all have to go through the bid process, yeah. So it'd be based on what TDEC allows us to do. And then in addition to the grounds are in disrepair and need to be cleaned up.
Did he ask for anything additional to go in the resolution or anything?
No, it's just work at the direction of the commission.
Any other thoughts? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
It does not pass. And under new business, item B is transfer between major categories, county buildings, 99,555, and capital projects for the Gallatin Health Department chiller replacement.
They allotted the mayor an amount to fix HVAC, central heat and air units. He sent a list to general ops quite a while back. This one was on there. They're having trouble with this one. It needs to be replaced the cold season. We've already bid it. It's just under, I think, general government equipment. It just needs to be moved to public health and welfare to use in our health department. So it does need to be sent to commission as a major line item transfer.
There's a transfer.
Between between major categories, the commission has to approve.
We need to waive, motion approved and waive.
I would waive it, but I'll.
Motion approved and waived.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under new business C is the nonprofit allocation panel recommendations. can see those on page 197. Yeah, they continue to 198. I'm gonna make a motion to approve. Can I have a second?
I have a question. I looked at the list, and I know that you're on the board. How did you determine, were there groups that were left out? Just curious.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty lengthy process. There is a application period that any 501c3 in the county can apply for, and then there's an application, and then they also come on one day, I think it was one day last month, and do a presentation to that board.
Mhm.
And then we go through based off of what the budget that the commission is given, which was $150,000, I believe, and with their requests, and kind of match them up and go from there. There are some, to be honest, that did not get their full request. There's some that got exactly that, and there's some that got even less than they requested for various reasons.
Would it be possible to see a little more detail, like any organization that was looking for money, what they requested, what they got, and who didn't get anything?
Do we still have that? I mean,
And look at the video.
Oh, you can
Look
Look at the
video.
owl launch that.
Okay.
It may even be uploaded
I
on
mean, I can
website, the
send
agenda.
the applications, or if you'd have to do a zip drive, because there's a lot of information.
Based in their financial statements, their budgets, salary structures, I want to say.
There's like several things, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I was curious is
It's
if
the
somebody
same
comes to me and
application.
says, why didn't you give us money and you gave them money? And
Sure.
if I could have that answer, that would be,
I don't know if there's anyone we'd straight, maybe one that didn't really operate in Sumner County, was,
There was a couple that didn't, but I
that,
mean,
that applied, that we outright denied.
yeah, I don't even need to know what they requested. If I just knew, we've got the list of people who received, if I could just know who the two people that were
Sure.
denied, that would be helpful.
I can send that to you.
That'd be
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Elevate 50 got $18,000.
Mhm.
That is the Hendersonville Senior Citizens.
Yes, they've changed their name.
Right, I just didn't know if that program, if that $18,000 was a program that was shared amongst all the senior citizen centers. And I wondered why the amounts are so different, but between the 5 senior citizen centers, if there's a quick.
Let me make sure I'm understanding. Is the Elevate 50 money?
Well, the Elevate 50 is just the Hendersonville
Correct.
Senior Citizen Center, but they received 18,000. I'm just looking at it when you flip the page over.
Sure.
The other senior
It's
citizen centers.
widely different. Chairman Hyde, you want to speak to that?
I'm not a member of this committee, but I was a member of the allocations committee, and I can tell you, David, that was probably one of the most detailed, involved, and hard-working committees. It was an all-day committee meeting, and
$450,000, but just,
and many of these organizations are doing things that county government would probably have to pick up and help with at a greater amount. Is the reason I've always supported it. It's pretty efficient. Now, in regard to the specific question here, those senior citizen centers we found varied greatly. It had to do with the number of people they served, which that information was given to it, and that varied tremendously. And the type of programs they were offering, were they offering meals and other kinds of services. So we took all of that into consideration, and I think it was very, very fair. As a matter of fact, it's rare that we have any kind of person come back from the detailed meeting we have and say, why did you do this?
I would say, Shannon, too. Sorry, Commissioner
Yes.
Brador. Under White House Senior Citizens,
Right.
that is actually operated under their city government. Like, it's a line item in their city budget. So
Because I
that's,
remember a couple of years ago, one of them came back and said.
It was White
didn't-"
House.
Oh, okay.
it was
Okay.
White House. And that's the reason why. I mean, technically, they're not a nonprofit to go
Right.
through this committee, but it's been a discussion. So
Oh, okay. They do meals
And
there,
the,
too.
the feedback that we've gotten is we're gonna operate whether you give us this money or not. It's just, is it gonna come from your pocket or the city pocket? And so we say, let's give money somewhere else and you get it from the city pocket.
I would add, from having sat on that committee, not during this term, that is a lot of time, effort, and resources for a very minimal amount. I will be honest with you that I do believe that some of it's just because some people know how to ask for it better and do an application better. I mean, that's just, I mean, you got
That's
some,
fair.
you got some directors that don't know how to, if you remember correctly, I advocated for Portland to have a little bit extra a few years ago because the guy they sent up here is a horrible, horrible communicator. They didn't send their good guy. I mean, and I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense that you got a state grant and you got this and you got that, but so some of it is that. I would say when Chairman Howard, because he's been doing this so long, there are one on here that I've said this for years. I don't know why we don't give more to CASA every year when y'all are on that committee, because we do fund that. If a child is in a court case and they need an advocate, they are getting an advocate one way or the other. And so the more we give
I
to,
can speak to that. It's because they're applying for opioid, a large amount of opioid
Okay.
funding. And
But-
so we talked about that. If we did, I think we met the
it's just
requirement.
county money regardless. At some point in time, that child is gonna get an advocate.
We were
So,
basically just trying to pull it from a different bucket.
awesome. That's great. That would be my only
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And C2, ARPA, unencumbered remaining funds, about $80,000 from the completed jail project.
Yes, that's where we're wanting to move money. The jail roof's complete, there's about 79,000, so if you look on your sheet right here, we kind of give you an idea. We're showing the 3,000,000, about halfway up, 3,037,508 for EMS and 1,269,315 for the jail roof. We're wanting to move, we're gonna cancel the PO, so that should go down by the 79,749 and move it up to that one, just appropriate it over there. At the same time, decrease the amount of local funding, which is around $1.4 million that's being paid out of your local capital and pay it with the ARPA funds instead.
Motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Does anything need to be waived on that?
I'd wait the second,
Waive.
decreasing,
I'll go ahead and wait.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
if I need to waive anything, keep the ARPA or not.
And then 2B is the subrecipient agreements. Do we want to go through these individually or?
You can go through them individually, or you
What would you
can,
suggest?
or you can group and approve all of them as amended and added, because we added two. and-
You added two.
We had to, but they will agree, if you go down to them, they will agree to what's on these sheets. In one of two ways, they will be, the unencumbered balance for whatever project, if you go start going down. through
Motion to
there.
group and approve
Second,
and waive any seconds if needed.
yes.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And C is the Hollows project, which is the flooding issue.
That's to give you an update where we're at on the Hollows project. It came in, and I get to page 400. The Hollows project, I'm trying to find the page we got for that one. Oh, one thing I did want to note for White House, to make sure, and that's something I did mention to deal with. White House, as far as we can tell, did not completely follow all the ARPA procurement requirements. However, they have been working with TDEC, and we feel it's very unlikely for a clawback. And there was additional clawback provisions for it to come from White House if it does happen in your MOUs and subrecipient contracts, a note to point. But if you look on page 424, to give you a summary on the Hollows, it was originally budgeted at $750 through engineering. There's $663,878 left. The lowest bid came in at $1.2 million, but it was disqualified because it did not answer or complete the bid. The second lowest bid that we did complete was $1.58 million, and it did contain some clawback. The way the thing was bid, it did allow us to elect not to implement specific items depending on the total project cost, is what the county engineer's done right now. So he's basically put it back in the budget, but to tell you that it will not complete, the 750 will not complete all the work over there at the Hollows. And the only thing I could say is if you could fund the additional or potentially look at some ARPA funds or nothing left, but that's just to give you an update right now.
Do we need to act on anything?
I wouldn't think so. They've already sent us and they're down and get to the available funds.
Is this available to ARPA?
There's none left.
There's none left.
Oh, this is the, not the general, the
No,
less.
this is the less stringent, but you've got them all right now, blocked off on the sheet here. If you look, they've all been committed to something through MOUs and different water lines.
Well, we've been shoveling everything to Westmoreland.
Yeah.
Well, you could take the difference and take it out of the Westmoreland and fund it back through capital, but do you wanna do that?
Well, we haven't even, well, of course, I guess.
We're gonna open the bid on the, EMS station and the fire department Wednesday. The fire department will know.
This Wednesday?
Yes, this Wednesday.
So we could do an emergency meeting if there was leftover money and shove it to the hollows?
You could, but right now what I think is the fire department, gotta remember the Oak Grove, you're budgeting 406 out of ARPA and another 500,000 out of, capital. So we have a project here that's gonna be bid ARPA, and we're gonna have a PO out on that thing. So if there's extra money, we can reimburse ourselves for any of that 500,000 out of capital. And number two, the EMS, if it comes anywhere above that 3,037,508 or whatever we have available, and we end up paying part of the building on the PO from capital, then we can reimburse ourselves if some other project comes down. But the only thing we are kind of cautious about is the EMS total 4.5, included furniture and stuff. We don't have a PO, so we need to pay all that out of capital if we don't have all that locked down. So the gist being said is what you may want to do is send this up to county commission for discussion if something comes up that Monday. I don't know.
On the hollows?
You know, if the bid comes back really far, you could do an MOU that day.
Well, didn't we just say we had 1.23 left,
Or,
not committed?
no.
What is that?
That's between these two, they're the same. That's saying that we've used more than, and over here, basically as long as this number's positive and that's negative, means we didn't use too much revenue to
Okay,
replace
so,
it.
so it's all spoken for.
It's all spoken for at this
Okay.
point.
Well-
And the thing to tell you, like, we have a administrative contract, there will be some money left over in that, but what we're gonna ask to do is reimburse, the county to reimburse the part of that, money that's on the EMS building or the, what did I say, the Oak Grove Volunteer Fire. That's our plan of how to handle it. It would have been nice to have another contingency project, but we got this about 45 days ago, so we don't have enough time to do it anymore, but we look fine. If anything comes back on the bids Wednesday, you could send this up as a discussion. I mean, I don't know how you wanna do it, or Eric, I don't know, would it be too material to put on the floor?
What's the total?
It's about the difference between what they're spending, the 663, and what they need would be another about $900,000.
It'd have to get pushed to the next commission and we'd be out of the
Can't do
thing
it.
anyway.
Can't do it anyway.
Yeah.
You could send it up as a discussion item if you wanted to, or put it on there to, there's a potential item or something, I don't know. Because you really need to notice, it's the big thing. We could create, basically if you guys.
Timeline of the project, so we think there's gonna be about $900,000 shortfall.
Well, they're gonna have to down off the project, and they've already done it. So the question is, if Wednesday we come in and for some reason one of these projects, which you don't think they're gonna be, was way under, or some other project fell through, we may need to look at it. The only MOU that we've, other than, all these.
Didn't our friend at the Hendersonville Community District just tell us he's gonna be about 500,000 under?
Well,
Yeah.
he didn't ask for the whole amount. His is 1.7, so he asked for out of the 2.6. So they were covering the difference, so I don't think he's asking for less. But,
Is that not what I heard, Jeff? Did I hear that wrong?
No, yeah, you already.
You still gonna be my partner in scrambles?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna make a motion.
Well-
He hits a golf ball a long way.
I guess the prudent thing would seem to be is to have a backup position at the county commission meeting. I mean, we could always pull it off if Wednesday we found, because that's the day after tomorrow.
we think there's a very high probability that these are gonna come in, that you're gonna have to use part of your capital. And we think there's a very high probability that all these MOUs that we've done with these cities are gonna do their water projects.
I
If they
think you've
didn't-
also got the problem with it having to go through budget again
What do you mean?
before it goes to commission. If you're reallocating all this,
You could send it up if there's any additional funds
We
that
could,
are found available.
we could send it up with a up to dollar amount and waive the
If
second
available.
and move it out of capital.
Why don't you just send one up if there's available because of these bids Wednesday, then you'll be an MOU up there. If not,
We
you
don't
just throw it
wanna,
down,
we don't wanna throw money away.
which I don't think you're going to.
Well, and I don't think we are either, but there's always that possibility.
Well, you could, instead of the up to, you could send it up and basically this email
When are they gonna need the funds by to finish the project?
basically, if Wednesday say these things came in huge under budget, or one of these, before December 31st come in and say, we can't do our MOU, so we can't tie these down. All we've gotta do in our office, because we have a bid, is if you guys had the money reallocated, we would just do the PO for 1.58 million versus 663,000. It's all tied up.
So then pass it out of here with an up to provision.
If available
Yeah.
provision, I think.
Yeah.
If there's additional available up to the difference,
But if it's not available,
then you kill
Yeah,
it.
it does.
It just dies.
So basically, give me.
that means we don't finish the project though, or that, have we started?
They're gonna
that?
downsize the project. Basically, the engineers
Okay.
bought stuff to downsize it, but we haven't signed the contract
Okay.
with the contractor, did a PO.
So we're not leaving the project halfway done.
No, we haven't. So I told them today we were gonna start on the PO process. I told them I thought we should wait till we discuss.
I'm not familiar with this project, so I'm trying to see what the Hollows project is. I mean, is
It's
it,
an old tract that's had problems with a new next door neighbor tract, and they've had a lot of flooding that wasn't there before. Plus, it was not well designed 40 years ago when it was built. It's on Long Hollow Pike. Josh Sudduth took me out there a couple of years
that's
ago.
the neighborhood right there across from the church. It's been flooding those people for years, right? The Hollows right there. Built the two
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
I think so.
People's water gets high.
Right, but it's got.
Somerset Downs, all that, Tower
Yeah,
Hill.
yeah.
You could send a resolution up to the county commission directing me to adjust the line items to allow for a PO.
If there's extra
Projects
money.
here listed fall through and we don't have.
I'm just trying to get my bearings as we, because if this is the project, I think, and I'll ask Mr. Isbell or Mayor or Mr. Chairman Hyde down there. Is this the project that way back 10 years ago now, we started trying to find ways to fix this, Chairman Hyde, because of
Letting.
the flooding when we felt like maybe it's the new Somerset Downs neighborhood, we made a big variance and agreed for lots to be smaller, and we didn't do
remember
proper,
that
we didn't do
discussion.
proper, accused supposedly when we went away from our standard 1 acre variance and we granted the neighborhood. This is a long time ago, I'm talking 10 years ago when we served. And there was maybe a lawsuit, like people were like, y'all didn't do, you just voted to lower the lot size and you didn't look and see what it would do. And now these people on that Hollows Court, that one street, basically get all the water from those two subdivisions, and basically 4 houses down there sometimes get 3-4 foot of water. I think that's the one.
Yeah.
I think that's the project we're talking about.
Yeah, and when they presented it 2 years ago, there was a house that was built on a different lot or something too, that created,
They've
made it
had,
worse.
Just trying to give some context to that. I think this has been a problem that the county's been trying to find a way to fix
For years.
for over a decade. And I would just say, I would hate to, whatever we pass tonight, shorten that project, because if I remember correctly, it was pretty much unanimous back then that we all agreed whatever happened, that we did have some culpability in as the county whenever, and that wasn't we none of us were serving except for Chairman Hyde, he's been serving forever. But I think Mr. Hyde was a no vote when that came in, if I remember correctly. So whatever we passed, I think we should make sure we finish that project, because I think that's a wrong that the county's been trying to right for
a long time.
I mean, I think it's been on the news and they've had people like for a long, long time. So this thing that we do, if we don't have any extra money, do we know how much better that makes this situation?
My understanding, they were going to, talking to planning, they were gonna move it down to make sure the budget gets started. It would improve it some. They were gonna come back next year and ask for more money to see if the commission was willing to do some more improvements.
If we can just start the project back up.
Right, that's what my understanding was.
But we do have a completion. We have a plan that says if we do all this, it'll be better.
I think the completion was the bidded item, but the bidded item's way over budget, and
So now we're just saying we're gonna do what we can.
I think so.
Okay.
But I think he's got a good point. Say, for instance, the EMS station here includes furniture and everything. We need a PO by the end of the year, so we're bidding the building money. We're not gonna be bidding POs, furniture. So we're assuming the building's gonna be more than this and the furniture's gonna be less than the other items over in capital. If it ends up being this building doesn't come in for this much, then we're gonna have to figure out what to do. So there needs to be something to discuss Monday. We can move it into other MOU projects and stuff, but to move it into this one, we're gonna have to have a PO in by December 31st, so.
And we could,
Well,
because we've already got a contract.
What I'm saying is we got a bid.
We got a bid.
We don't have a contract because it's hold, because this is what we could do is send, basically a resolution up, say to adjust this if funds are available, and then I can tell them Monday where the bid came in. If the bid comes in that much or more, then there's no funds available. If the bid comes in less than this, then there's some funds available.
That's my motion, what he said.
I've got it, that's what he said motion.
Basically send this up and say fund or transfer from the EMS building to the hollows up to the difference between these two if the bid came in last Wednesday. Then we'll just basically transfer the money. If it doesn't, then you basically kill the resolution.
We do nothing at the Hollows.
Well, you do this 660, you do this next year.
So next year, if we do that, I just really think when we sit on this committee, we go through our budget process, I'm sorry for my hair, I think we should look at making that on the top of our list of our capital projects.
Or the other option is.
David, you were here, do you not remember, I mean, this has been something we've been trying to fix for, and I think we wait for this ARPA to be like, we can finally.
If this is you got money in capital, if this is the project you wanted to do now, the easiest way to guarantee both would be to say, move that much out of the EMS down into the hollows and then increase the capital projects funding by that much.
Well, that's why my question would be, yes, I understand, but we're at 2.5 million in capital, roughly, correct?
Mm-hmm.
My thing would be, how long, time-wise, until the 600-something thousand runs out, and does that get us close enough along that if we then pop back on out of a new capital number in May, it's not slowing that's where I would want to.
I say you're gonna slow, because you're probably gonna rebid the portion will flow back in, because these usually are good for 90 days.
Well, that's what I'm saying, how, do we know the completion of the first $600-something thousand? I mean, if that's a 4-month project to get to that point, well, we're now at almost time to know.
That'd be more of a question from our county engineer, yeah, I can't answer.
Does that make sense, County Mayor? Am I running down the?
Yeah, no.
I don't wanna run down the wrong rabbit
You're
trail.
fine, and I'm texting, okay, here we go.
And you're also gonna have to rebid it if you do that too, so if you're worried about.
But just rebid the second half.
Right. The thing is, if you do end up with this coming in last, it would be good to have another fallback project in the commission's work, when it's advertised.
So basically what he said is that as it's currently proposed, rescoping it takes care of the most serious issues, and the rest can be done as a future phase if and when funding becomes available. So, but it resolves the most serious concerns.
So we'll spend the ARPA money that's been committed to it, but if there is extra money,
We can apply it.
we can apply it. And that's what my
Could you make
motion.
that motion and proposal and waive the second, then I'll work up a resolution.
Yeah, make that proposal.
And then I'll
Waive
inform the
second.
commission Monday, because we'll have the bid, we'll bring the bids Monday.
And just saying this for the owl, whenever we get into looking at capital projects next year, or whatever we don't get done, if we don't get this Santa Claus money, then let's look at adding some finishing pieces into that. But I second Commissioner Klein's motion in the way.
I don't think you'll get the money, but it's better
I
to
don't.
fall back.
I have a motion and a second,
With waiving the second.
with waiving the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next item is just a multi-year contract, they're not asking for
Motion
funding.
approved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next one's for the archives roof, the bidder came in at 98, I believe there's 500,000 budgeted. Gen Ops approved it, but they said to send it on the budget, but it's already appropriated, so it's for informational only.
Don't need to vote?
No, you've already got it appropriated.
Okay.
Okay.
The next
And
item is your election commission, and we had an additional email to pass out for,
just confirming, Mr. Sittler, we can discuss whatever this is, correct? Like, that's not gonna mess up anything?
Yeah, I want to be very clear, if I may. The election commission lawsuit is about location of their operations
Not
only.
budget.
Everything else, they're under the normal operating
I
procedures.
just wanna make sure I wasn't.
Yeah, and I'm glad you
I
brought
stuck
that
my foot in
up.
my mouth several times in my life. I'm not trying to do it tonight.
No, we already checked with Mr. Sidler before the meeting.
David, what is this exactly? Is this where they think they're gonna be, they're not out of budget yet, they just think they're gonna be?
They've got
rich?
line items that's ran over by $47,000 in election workers. They've got money in other line items. I'm not really clear what she wants. If you read the email trail.
That's what I was just trying to figure out.
She
She's
says
not-
clear, and then I said, well, do you want the budget committee to adjust between your line items? She says, no, I want, I'm not exactly sure what she wants,
Move it to old business.
at this point.
I'll second that.
Yep.
And I am gonna
Would
pay if
that
she's
be
got
with
paid.
asking for more information?
Yeah, move it to old business, asking for better clarification. From me reading it, it looks to me like she has money in her budget. She's not,
Move it around.
she's trying to move it around. She's trying to ask us for money in case when she moves it around, she can't cover it. So I would say we can deal with that when she don't have money.
That's right.
Like,
I guess you can make an ask of her appearance too. I'm just throwing that out there for you all. She doesn't take it.
Okay, so my motion, move it to old business with a request for the election commission director to come and clear up the confusion we have, because the numbers are not making sense to me. So she needs to come and try to explain to us why she has a shortfall of money.
Second.
do we need to vote on that?
I don't think you need to
No,
vote,
don't
but
need to
that's what, if we can request her to be here.
You just want to make a motion to request her to be here to explain it. Is that the best way?
Well, you don't understand it, I don't understand it. I don't see a shortfall of money. I see money in between there when I look at it. I'm trying to figure out what she's asking for.
I see between line items, I don't know what she's got left, but I'm not sure what she's asking you to do.
That's
She asking you to
what they need.
adjust her line items for her, or she asking us to all get together, adjust her line items for her, or she asking for more money, I'm not sure.
If you and her can't speak during the week, then she needs to come in here.
I got two emails.
I like it. And then item D is a tax refund for $6.
Motion approved.
I got a question on this.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned.
Does this
Second.
need a waiving, does it?
No, it's under 5,000.
What are we talking about?
The $6.
$6.
Oh, that's just a tax.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, but it's $6, man.
Right.
It is $6.
It's on all this way.
I'm honestly impressed that this person can
I'll let you do that. Or you can, actually, you can throw it in the spot.
combine for two. So this person spent more money on gas than on their tax getting back and forth.
It's been
I
more
couldn't
staff
believe that.
hours to type that up than it was worth.
Literally, you know that had to be more than 2 gallons of gas going back and
Of course
forth
it
to the
was.
county to.
$6 can't even buy you a Speedy Gonzales
Well,
anymore.
that's like when they say.
Hello, Joe.
The traffic
Hey,
ticket.
David.
Why'd you dye your
Are we
beard?
stopped?
Ain't that dark?
I'm gonna leave all this down here till tomorrow.